Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Boosted Rolls. I'm Simon and I play Legion.
Hi, it's Tomasz and I play Circle.
So, today we're doing something a little bit different than we normally do, in that we are linking the sort of podcast or the discussion with a video. We spoke in our last episode about doing a deep discussion of Anamag versus Krueger and sort of why we end up playing that matchup whenever we meet. And then we had the fortunate circumstance that we met at the WTC in the semi-final, no less. So, we have the recording of that game, and Tomasz has kindly done all of the video editing to bring that down to a more reasonable length. And so what we're going to do is load that video, and after loading it, we'll sort of discuss it alongside this this shortened, quickened version of the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press play. We can all listen to the music together, and then when it finishes, we'll begin talking about the game. So get ready and enjoy. So, Tomasz, what were your plans coming into this game?
So in WTC format, when two teams are paired together, they roll a dice, and the team that wins the roll can choose between choosing tables for each game or having more favorable matchups. In our game, my team won the roll. We chose to choose the tables, and I've asked my friends to leave two tables available for me. One had a giant forest and one had giant buildings. So in case I will play with you, I wanted to have those two buildings available for me to take advantage of their placement.
Yeah, specifically to take advantage of the Blightbringer and the sort of Legion's desire to be central, and also like what you didn't mention, I think, was that these forests on the other table were absolutely in perfect positions for Hellmouths.
Yeah.
So they were sort of in zones, contesting, you know, well hidden Hellmouths. It would have been really, really terrible for you.
Yeah. If I give you those forests, it would be like Christmas comes early this year. So I already had a game against Anamag on a table that was very similar to this one, with two giant buildings in a way. So I knew that I can run around those buildings, score some points, shoot you without getting punished for it, because your list has very linear angles and those buildings will be in a way. So that was my plan. How about yours?
So my plan, and we can just see my army coming up on the screen for those who don't know it. I've been running Anamag with Golab for some time, and I was running a fairly balanced Mongers, Chosen, and Rotwings combination along with it. My plan into this game was to get the forest table, but my my captain disagreed. And thought that we'd be better off going with the matchups. But in the end, I think you actually won the team roll-off anyway, and you took the
tables, yeah.
The table choice, right? Tomasz's army is up on board. I think it's pretty well known by now. But there was a small change, namely Gallows Groves, which actually do become a bit relevant in this matchup, because that's why they're there. And again, I'd like to state that you're a bastard, just for the record.
Sorry, mate.
So
I won the roll. Who's going?
So you won the roll. You won the roll, and that was pretty important, right?
It was very important, and I decided to give you in first because I wanted to choose the table side without the building in a way. So because I gave you this side with the building almost in your deployment zone, you had to split your army in two. So the side, the top side of your army is going to get easily killed by whatever I will counter deploy. So the counter deployment was important, and the side was important, and going first wasn't really important in this matchup. I mean, on standoff, it's probably even better to go second in this matchup, because I'm going to score first and last, and we already know that this is probably going to 7, right?
Yeah. We've played this several times. It's one of the reasons that we wanted to discuss this matchup. And it's pretty clear that going second is favourable because we know we're going to 7, or we're pretty certain. And so scoring first and scoring last is just fantastic. And generally speaking, terrain is pretty important in this matchup. I would say very important. And so being able to choose side is pretty essential. So I didn't get to choose the table, didn't get to choose the side, and it's not looking great. So we get into my first turn, and I sort of begin my autopilot deployment of Primal Terrors. That said, we were discussing it before the game that one of the things you should do is everybody has their sort of auto-piloting unpacking of their list. The reason we have it is to save a lot of time, to make sure that you know your list well, you can unpack it on any given terrain, and you know, for example, in my case, that I use the Warmongers on my weaker side, sending one in to contest to give me vengeance, and then using the others to protect that side, and just rinse repeat whilst everything else is on the other side. So I begin that sort of automatic unpacking. However, you should always balance that against the tools of your opponent's toolbox. In the case of Krueger, I have to be aware of TK. So if you look at my top Hellmouth, all of those tentacles are within 6, not within 8. So a single TK cannot remove any tentacle that might be problematic for him. I forgot to do it on the bottom one, so, you know, sue me. And then if you look at the Warmongers, they are all spread out, measured with a widget for a 4-inch blast, and that's because the Fulcrum can get ported forwards and will be ported forwards, and could then hit me with this fire blast. So always be aware of your opponent's tools, and by all means have an auto-piloted unpacking, but make sure that you weigh that against the tools of your opponent. Anything else about this first turn? I think it's all the usual stuff. You want to have Golab central, Blightbringer central, make sure things are within 6 inches, keep the Rotwings back not to get electroleaped, spread out the spell martyrs so that they can potentially be useful, and then pass the clock. So, your first turn.
Yes, so before I start talking about my first turn, I've wanted to point out a deployment mistake I've noticed. The bottom sentry stone, I feel like it should be deployed closer to my army or further in the flank, but I will come back to it. So now I'm measuring threat ranges of Warmongers. I don't want to give you mannequins, I want them to be relevant next turn. So I position them to get some nice angles for the sprays if you enter the zone. I put my Black Lad behind them, and now I start removing the tentacles, just so I would like to remove all of them, so there's no more than one next turn. So you need to choose between contesting my rectangular zone or circular zone. I shouldn't probably say my circular zone, but it's...
Let's call it your circular zone, shall we?
Yeah. It's pretty obvious at this point that it's going to be dominated by me, because that was like part of the plan from the beginning. And now what you can see is I'm measuring if I can move with Fulcrum and shoot Hellmouth without giving you the cover bonus. And actually about the autopiloting, that's a mistake on my part, because I'm so used to going first and so used to shooting Hellmouth on my first turn because there's no Blightbringer aura. I kinda did it automatically, and like in the middle of all the measurements and stuff that I lost time on, I realized that not only I cannot get with only movement there, I need to get ported, and I wanted to get ported back or somewhere to be placed better. I also have very little chance to kill the Hellmouth, but because I lost already time on it, I decided like, why not? Maybe I will get some lucky spikes, but I didn't. So I wasted like probably 4 or 5 minutes from clock, and if you know you're going to 7, the clock is probably important. I would say very important in this game. So
yeah, I think you can't value enough the wasted time. So like there are so many actions that need to be taken in the game. There are so many things that need to be done. So, and those all take a lot of time. If you then start thinking, like, on top of that, all these actions that you don't need to make, that's what kills you. You just can't do it. Here we are measuring a deviation on a lightning storm or electric field or whatever the hell it's called. I always forget. And I just wanted to double check the positioning, which happened to be absolutely spot on, but I wasn't sure at the time. So we paused the clock and just made sure that it was correct, and it was.
Yeah, we've paused the clock a lot in this game, especially to count points at the end of each turn, and I think it's very, very good for the game itself.
Yeah, especially in our games, I think just having a gentleman's agreement early on to pause the clock at the end of each round in order to do the scoring, I think that has a positive effect on the flow of the game and on the state of the game. I think everything's clean and easy for everyone to see. And even when we did that, it still wasn't like super clear in the last minutes of the game. So it's we'll come to that later. So tell me about the rest of your positioning. Why are you where you are?
So, as I already said, I wanted to avoid the fight for as long as possible. So everything is pretty much outside of your threat ranges. And the bottom sentry stone, I've declared the intention to be within 5 inches of the zone. And the rest is quite far to be more or less safe from the combination of Hex Blast, Gallows and Hellmouth's Pull that I know you like to do. Yeah, so I was keeping my stuff clamped up base to base together with each other. So if you decide to go for it and drag one of my heavies in, it will come with a price. I mean, you will probably need to spend a lot of time just to figure out how to do it properly.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we can see here. I mean, we're watching a sped up version of the video, but I actually, being far too caring too much, I went back and watched the original video and worked out that I actually wasted about 3 minutes and 45 seconds on this play, trying to work out if my Spell Martyr below the Blightbringer and the Spell Martyr in the center could both reach the heavy that we're looking at, and now a judge is kindly checking the distance on, to see whether I could reach it and get the Hex Blast and then the Gallows, and then how far I would need to pull on the Gallows in order to then get the Hellmouth hit. It is worth having a look at, and I don't regret looking at it, but I do regret the amount of time that I spent after I realised it was quite difficult. I think when you realise that something's pretty difficult, it's worth just dropping it. A lot of the time, unless it's an assassination. If it's a game-ending assassination, then it might be worth checking, but generally if it's just a heavy and you're really not sure, I think it would have been a lot better for me, especially in this case, to simply drop it.
Yeah, I think so. So what you're doing now with Chosens was very smart, and maybe not smart on my part, leaving the stone so close. This is why I told you that I should keep it closer to my army or further on the flank. Just if you decide to go for the stone and it's further in the flank, like in the bottom from the screen perspective, you'd be further away from my army, and that's not good for you. And and now if it's closer to my army, you'd get punished for going for the stone. But the way I've placed it here was not really relevant. So what you are doing now, from what I remember, is not only jamming my stone so I cannot run away, but I declared that I want to be in 5 inches to the zone, and you put Chosen in the only landing spot for a stone, so I cannot contest it, and all my mannequins are in melee with the Chosen, so I cannot move the outside of the melee without getting free strike. So it's very hard for me at this point to contest the circular zone.
Yeah, so I mean, I realized, I mean, we both went into this. We had a long time looking at the table before the game. We spoke about it. We knew that this double building setup was going to be really crippling for me. And so my plan was a little bit based on the game that you actually played against the Norwegian player. And he plays a different version of Anamag. He plays it with double chosen, and he plays a different style as well. I play very cagey style, looking for gallows and looking for hit and run style stuff in general. But Martin Brome, and I'm so sorry about that pronunciation. He has a much more aggressive style, and I respect it. It's not my style, but I respect it, and it's effective. And when he played against you, that aggressive style, that sort of jamming and really sort of relying on the boxes and armor and general fighting power into Krueger's slight problem with armor was effective. And so I thought, right, what I need to do is try to run you down and engage you and get you to fight me. And so I knew that I needed to at least put pressure on this bottom side, because as we say, you look at that top side and you know what's going to happen. With a Fulcrum and some Warmongers, I'm going to die, and you're going to claim that circle zone. So it means I must claim this bottom one in order to keep the score equal, or preferably start to push an advantage. And as you say, I mean, I didn't realize it at the time, but I agree that had you had your Sentry Stone further or closer, it wouldn't have allowed me to make this play of sort of pushing up on your Sentry Stone and trying to score. But I must say that in a moment we'll see how you counter it in order to contest this round, and it was very, very, very effective, very good. And I sort of maybe should have seen it coming, but didn't. So we'll see about that. So now I'm looking at the Warmongers on the other side, and one option was to simply, put one in the zone, keep the others back, rely on vengeance. But I just got the impression that wasn't going to work, and I felt like you were guaranteed to score if I did that. Whereas here I could sort of commit them, force you. Like, I didn't want you to be able to just run in a circle around the buildings, so I wanted to put something on that side that sort of forced you to do something, forced you to act, so you couldn't have just free reign, because I wanted to close in on you on the bottom side. But well, we'll see how it goes now. So moving into your turn, and tell us what happens.
Yeah, so at this moment I'm just taking my fury, doing fury management, doing my war beast. As you can see, I have a dice on my objective. This is to remind me that I should remember about healing in maintenance phase from objective. It's healing objective. And now I'm going for Warmongers. It's the easier part because I won't get punished for positioning in this zone. There's no threat there except those Warmongers. So I start with mannequins. I do some charges into them. And now
do you generally start with easier activations? Is that something you do, like in most games, start with the easier activations, or is that just in this case that's what happened?
Yeah, usually, like if there's something I'm going to do anyway and it's not affecting my other stuff, I will start with it probably, because the rest of the list like works really together, like all the TKs and stuff. So this is like a complicated machine, let's say, and and those mannequins like were outside of this. Like I'm probably not going to waste TK on a mannequin or something like that. So now I go with Fulcrum and I want to kill your Gorag, and I was so excited I've hit your Gorag with a spray. I actually forget to roll for damage on other Warmongers. It happens to me twice this game, but anyway, I believe I killed the Gorag. He didn't off. Yep. I tried to finish off the other Warmongers, and what I should do here, and I knew it, I should port my Gallows Grove to prevent your tough. But when I wanted to move it, you've asked me to let you know beforehand because you were concerned about something. So I didn't know what's going on, so I decided just to not waste my clock thinking what's there. with the
yeah. So I wasn't sure what you were talking about. That was the time when I thought you were going to block your own fulcrum in, right?
Yeah. So you want to give me a friendly tip, but
in the end, I ended up costing you some clock. Sorry about that.
No, it wasn't costing me a clock. I just decided not to think about this activation because there actually might be something there, and like we said, like clock is important in this game. So if something is not worth it, you just don't do it. And I was pretty sure I'm going to kill all the warmongers anyway, even if they tough, but I left 2 alive and it would cost me too much suboptimal positioning to finish them off, so I decided just to leave them there. One is knocked down far away from Rise, so he won't be effective next turn, and in his melee he has only Mannequin, so if you want to kill Mannequin, it's fine.
Yep.
The other one is also like he's not going to kill Sentry Stone probably in a charge. Maybe you could put Fury Strength on it, but it would cost you a Spell Martyr, so I'm fine with that because I don't need Sentry Stone there on this flank. It would be better to have it in the bottom, where I'm going to have problem to contest the zone.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking about fit and about what to do with my heavies. I have only a single tentacle in my zone that I need to remove, and I need to contest your zone as well. So now I'm measuring if after the fit I can port my fulcrum where the CD is, which I'm doing now. It's just on the edge of your zone, so I'm going to contest it, and the yellow proxy base indicates where Golab is going to end, and it will be outside of range to Fulcrum, so Fulcrum is going to be safe, and it's going to be able to kill your Helmoth next turn. So at least it was my thinking at the time.
Yeah, that's the plan.
So now I'm doing the thing with Sentry Stone, because I couldn't reach your zone without getting a free strike. I decided to port my Sentry Stone base to base with other Mannequin and move my Mannequin to the zone, because now I blocked your line of sight to my Mannequin, so I can move without a free strike.
Yeah, which I really like. I never do that. It's not one of the tricks that I sort of regularly do, so I certainly don't think to counter it, and it catches me off guard. So if you don't know about that one, it's one that Slovenian player Bafo, he caught me with it really hard in Brno in a tournament. He was playing some Krueger2 pikeman thing, and he used his counter charges to just not to get the charge necessarily, but to block the line of sight so he could free up some models and move them as he wished. Very cool stuff. So yeah, you managed to contest my circle zone.
Yep. And now I use Fit with Krueger. We resolve all the pushes. I've pushed one tentacle outside of command from Helmoth, so it's gone. And now I'm TKing Krueger back, and I keep him behind a lot of stuff this game, because I knew that one of the things I need to watch out for is assassination, because the table favors me, and like I won the roll, and we know we're going to 7. So the entire game we knew that I'm advantaged here. So when you know you have an advantage, you need to know that your opponent is going to look for some outs, and one of the most obvious outs is just to kill your opponent's caster.
Yes, yeah. And my god, I was looking for that this game. The only advantage of having a building in the middle, like generally Legion don't necessarily want to see that. It limits the amount of Hellmouth dragging that we can do, and those drags that we do manage to do, you know, bump into the building, we don't get the free hits from the big maw and all that stuff. But one of the advantages with my version, and a version that's becoming popular now, with Golab, is that he's the first beast in Legion with access to flying trample and flying slam. So if you're sitting behind a building, even if you don't get line of sight, you can still get in there, and he has the stats to kill a lot of casters, especially if you really go for it and you pop the feet and just sort of put a warrior model within melee range to get that +2. It really makes a difference. So I was trying to turn this disadvantage into an advantage a little bit, or at least trying to make the best of a bad situation. And so Golab was sort of centrally placed. He's been pushed back by the feet now, but his original plan was to be there in order to contest that central space a little bit, make you have to go a bit further around if you wanted to move. And also I wanted to try to stop exactly what has happened, which is I wanted to stop this fulcrum dominating its central position. I wanted you to have to keep it back, but you used your feet to do that, and I can't sort of respect the feet all the time. I should have maybe respected it more and put a little rot wing behind Golab, something like that. You know, two rot wings base to base. But I mean, it's really hard to stop Krueger's feet because you can change the angle as you wish, and I don't know where that angle's going to come from. So Blightbringer is currently still a pie plate. He is still alive, don't worry. But he's in the middle, and I'm trying to work out how to sort of best make use of him and get him up the table. These electric fields are a real pain because my rot wings can't get in. I'm sort of trying to move around, circle around, get into you, but the electric fields make that kind of difficult. And I'm aware that my right flank, or on this video the top side, is collapsing very, very quickly, so I need to collapse the bottom side. We sort of, again, we started to discuss clock tactics, and I don't mean like aggressive clock tactics. I don't mean tactics against your opponent. I mean decisions which maximize the use of your own clock. And while we've got a little bit of downtime in the game where I'm sort of just trying to work out positioning and so on, I thought we could maybe just discuss that a little bit. So one of the things that you mentioned before the recording was planning ahead in order to contest. You know that every round you're going to need to contest all of your opponent's zones. So in this case, opponent's zones for you being my bottom circle zone and my rectangle zone, and for me being the top circle and the left rectangle. And so I'm constantly able to contest the rectangle with a Hellmouth. That's easy enough. I don't need to think about that. And at the moment, I'm able to contest the top circle. But, you know, you don't need a sidekick to tell you that that top Hellmouth is likely to die very soon. And so I need to start thinking about what I can do to contest that top circle zone. There is a spell martyr, sorry, parked by the top building, and I'm pretty sure I took him behind the building because I'm planning to contest the next round. So I need to keep him safe, and I need to know that I have something that can test the following round, and you need to start thinking about this stuff in advance. So even though my Hellmouth is alive, my spell martyr is out in the open, I've still got warmongers in the zone, I'm already starting to think about how can I contest this top circle. And conversely, you are or should be doing the same thing in the bottom circle. So what's your plan regarding the bottom circle? You know that your sentry stone's dead. You know your easy answer is no longer there. So what's the plan? How do you do it?
You've just kind of killed my main plan because I wanted to contest this zone with my sentry stone. And it's obviously a mistake on my part, as I've mentioned. I usually keep my sentry stone very safe to be annoying and contest forever. Not in this case. So now when my plan is gone, I probably need to make a new one and to think how do I contest your zone in the future. But as you can see in the top, I scored first, I have a point there, and I'm going to score last, so I didn't feel the scenario pressure that much.
Okay.
But what I should have foreseen probably is, the thing is I have a one really good contesting model in this list, and this is a Blacklat Wayfarer. It can move.
Where's he right now?
He's on the close to my Sentry Stone, like close to your Warmonger that you're moving right now.
Okay, okay.
But you are going to punch the Sentry Stone, which is obvious like choice. If you spike, you have a value there.
Yeah.
So Wayfarer can just walk in the range of Shifting Stone. He needs to be within 2 inches and then jump 12 inches. And with TK, it's like 20 inches of contesting. So he's not going to do that. At some point, I will realize that I should. But this is the thing I would point out as a mistake on my part, not thinking ahead, because once I lost my Sentry Stone, I should start feeling the stress of the circular zone in the bottom.
So maybe it's my mistake as well then to not go that one step further and say, okay, this is what I'm doing to prepare to contest. What is my opponent going to do to prepare to contest my zone? And how can I stop him? So if I knew that, I should have really hit the black clad there, not the Sentry Stone, right? Because I'm unlikely to kill the Sentry Stone. You don't need it to score the zone anyway. Yeah. That side's already collapsed, so I should be looking to kill your contesting piece. So that was my mistake as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, you can always take things to the next level, but you know, depends on how much clock you've got. So what's happening in your turn? What's your goal here?
So like in the previous turn, I want to start with easy stuff. So I move my World Word, trying to put some LD damage on your objective and remove the last Warmonger there in my zone to score it. Top zone. So now I'm removing the tentacles because they are kinda annoying, and I move my Warden now. I TK your tentacle away of command range because you are just within 8, so I can TK you like a millimeter and you're out. And what
are you measuring here? Are you measuring to see if you can keep yourself safe from Golab with the Fulcrum?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
okay.
I believe, yeah, I measured and I decided to move it outside of your threat range and shoot the Helmoth, I believe, or the objective.
Yeah, I think you're doing top helm. Are you doing objective or top Helmoth?
I don't know. I think like that.
Are you hitting the objective now because I'm marking damage on it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you remove the objective.
Yeah, I scored a point for it. And then, because I see that the Golab is not in the zone, and the only thing contesting it is a Helmoth. So if I remove Helmoth and objective, I can score this zone in your turn, which would be like, I mean, in my turn, but it would be massive.
Yeah, that would have been really crushing. I actually left Golab out of that zone on purpose because I figured you could contest it very easily, and I decided the only way I could place him and be in the zone is if he was in the line of sight and aiming range of the Fulcrum. And I cannot lose Golab in this game. He is my assassination piece, he's my pressure piece, he's my hit and run piece, he's everything. So I decided it was worth the point, which I didn't think I was going to get anyway. I was pretty certain you'd be able to contest with something relatively meaningless. So I put Golab in a better position in order to sacrifice that point.
Yes.
Did you think that was a good move or not?
Yeah, it was a good move, especially that I didn't have the hitting power to remove the Helmoth. And I decided not to contest the zone because you're not scoring there. So,
and if I was scoring, do you remember what you were planning to contest with?
I would probably just put a Shifting Stone or I don't know, like maybe
something useless.
Maybe a black
okay. You wouldn't put the Fulcrum in there. You wouldn't give me the Fulcrum.
No. I would put something like less relevant. And what I did in my zone is I put 2 War Beasts together. Because I was afraid of Golab. I asked you about your threat range behind building, and I saw you were like, but what do you mean? So I knew that there's something going on there, and I must admit I didn't remember about trample, but I kept some transfers. I put 2 War Beasts in front, base to base, so you cannot attack me with Golab. and then I dropped some lightning storms in a way of those rotwings.
Yeah, that was such a pain. That was such a pain.
Yeah, it's a board control or board denial. So rotwings cannot charge for them because they will die. But I think I hit 2 rotwings or 3, and I had like really crappy rolls and failed to kill them because of Blightbringer aura.
One of them lived for the Blightbringer aura. That's funny. So you're 4-1 up at this point, right? That is that is. I thought you went 3-1 up. So right, okay, I'm in trouble here. So we come into my turn. I'm 4-1 down. But I feel like, given the situation, given these 2 buildings, given the sort of pole dancing that we're doing around this center building, that at least I've done what I wanted, which is actually
you measured the Golabs.
Oh, measuring Golab to Krueger. Yeah. If you watch carefully, in almost every turn of this game now, you will watch me measure Golab to Krueger. Because, my God, I really wanted you to give me that. One of my plans was to try to create enough chaos, enough sort of mayhem and time pressure and scenario pressure in the game, where you would make a mistake and leave Krueger within somewhere I could get hold of him with Gallows or with Golab or some combination. And spoiler alert for those of you that haven't played against Tomasz, but waiting for him to make a mistake can take a while. So it's not the best plan, but it was the best I had at the time, so I gave it a go. Now I am moving up again. So again, I realise that you are, avoiding the fight, don't want it, and that it definitely benefits me to have it. So I'm trying to bring it to you. I'm moving stuff in a position where it's slightly annoying to hit. Defense 13 behind a wall. It's kind of annoying. Bringing in the Chosen soon, and I even bring up the Blightbringer as well this turn, which I think you slightly didn't expect. What was your thinking about the Blightbringer coming in quite so aggressively? It's not happened yet. It's coming soon on the video, but do you remember it from the game?
I really don't remember. I mean,
no problem.
I didn't care that much about Blightbringer. The thing is that because he was a proxy base, I kind of like ignored him because he wasn't like this massive giant monster that I need to think about. He was just a cute, nice blue proxy base. But,
well, as you can see, Golab's wing is kind of hovering over him and was for most of the game, so it kind of made sense to leave him off, and he's a really badly designed model. Tail overhang, claw overhang, it's dreadful. But anyway, so the Chosen come in now. Am I just charging, just running to engage, charging the objective, and taking more damage than I expected to from Lightning Field?
Yeah. You could rapid heal at this moment, right?
Could I? That's not from an attack. It's not from an enemy attack.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a hazard. So you can, and I rolled like 10s and 11s, so yeah. So I put some
it was a good
damage,
hit,
and I wasn't that to be honest, I wasn't that afraid of Blightbringer, and I wasn't even thinking about him because I knew he cannot charge really through this building. If he walks up, it's going to be a point now. I think this turn was a point where when I passed the clock, you asked which turn is it. I said it's 4th turn, and you were like, really? It's just 4th turn? Because our clock was really low at this point. So
yeah, do we know how low? Can we? I can't see it on the video. It's a little blurry. Do you have any?
But I think it was something like 15 minutes at this point for both of us, and
maybe less, right? I mean, we're not that. Like maybe 10. I don't know.
Maybe. And at this point, I wasn't like thinking about Blightbringer. I wasn't really going to punch him, to try to kill him. It's not worth the clock. And the only problem with the Blightbringer here, and it was a very smart move on your part, is that I will struggle now to contest your zone. I think this is going to be a turn when I'm not going to do it because Blacklat is too far away and I don't have anything else to enter the zone. So
Yeah.
the Blightbringer positioning was really smart.
We've brought the game back now to 4-4. So yeah, basically you definitely did some scenario damage to me, but I've managed to bring it back. So I've sort of freed up my zone, killed the objective, and sprinted back to my rectangle to score 2. Held still the Hellmouth sitting in the bottom zone, and I've got enough stuff in the way where I'm pretty certain you can't contest, and that you won't be able to score your rectangle. So you're only scoring 1. I've put a tentacle in the zone because, surprising to me, but my top Hellmouth survived, so I was able to contest with the tentacle, and I didn't need to commit the spell martyr, but he's still waiting behind the building for his time to shine. You basically just bring in the Gallows Groves, your dirty, filthy Primal Terrorist tech,
Yeah.
and clean up the Chosen.
Yeah.
And what else is going on? What are you thinking?
I'm putting lightning storms just to kill some birds. I want to kill as much as possible. That's things like models that are going to be annoying, like in a very late game, just running into my zone. So I don't care about like heavy targets like Bringers or Golab that has a lot of boxes that I would need to chew through. I just try to kill stuff that I can kill with a single hit or 2 hits. As you can see, I'm already speeding up my game because we're running off clock, and at this point it's like very important to stay ahead. And as a second player, I have this, like, let's call it technique, to look how much my opponent gave me, how much time he gave me, and I'm trying to, at the end of my turn, I want to have equal time or be or more. I cannot really afford to go under what you have as a second player.
So basically, yeah, you're saying that as the second player, you just use the other player as a benchmark. You say, right, he spent 7 minutes, so I've got 7 minutes or less for this turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. I mean, that's something I don't really do enough. I should maybe start doing that. My clock management tends to just be like, what do I need to get done this turn, and what's the fastest way to do it? I don't really think of it in those sort of ways.
Yeah, so interesting decision here was that I've realized that I cannot phase jump with a Blacklat into your zone, so I decided to put him in the only spot that your spell martyr could run into my zone, to contest it. So because Blacklat was there, your spell martyr was going to be irrelevant for contesting next turn and probably further on. So, yeah.
Anyway, we're coming into the final minutes of the game, and things are getting very, very tense. So
this is the moment.
Again?
Sorry to interrupt you, but this is the moment I told you after the game that I feel swinged it to my favorite, because Anamag fit and Blightbringer moved to kill Megalith. You lost a lot of clock doing it, but you didn't kill him, right?
Yeah, I left him on 1 box, and that sucked. But the point stands that even if I'd killed him, it probably wasn't the best play to make.
Probably.
In fact, it was probably one of the worst plays to make. So a weakness of mine is the end game scenario, sort of low clock decision making, and I'd say it's a strength of your game. And so we're now definitely in we're in your arena now, right?
Yeah, so now I'm
what are you doing?
Golab, so he's not a threat. I'm just making moves to be able to contest the circular zone next turn and to put enough stuff so you are not going to score any other zone that's circular zone. So I can see I run my World Warden base to base with Blightbringer, so if he frenzies it to World Warden, not Megalith that has only 1 box, and the World Warden can move to the circular zone next turn. And at this point I believe you had like you were very low on clock. Like
less than a minute, I think.
Yeah, because when you started punching Megalave with a Blightbringer, the difference in our clock started to be visible. I think it was like 3 minutes to 1 minute, so it was relevant. Yeah, so now Golab just contested my zone, and I believe you have 5 seconds left now.
Yes, about 5 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, so I need to kill the Spell Martyr or something that's in your rectangular
Yeah, I have a
zone.
Spell Martyr in the bottom right of my rectangle zone, and also Anamag is stood in the middle of it, but that's...
Yeah, but that's like, I'm
She
not
doesn't
going to
contest,
even try... Yeah, she doesn't contest, so I TK'd Golab away, I killed the Spell Martyr to score there. I'm asking you if you want to make 3 strikes? Yeah, I was asking you the entire turn, but at this point you couldn't afford a 3 strike. So
Yeah.
I moved the Warden into your circular zone, and I passed the clock. I paused, so we calculate the points. And what did you did in your turn was...
Yeah, so basically what happened at the very end there, obviously, as viewers, you're very welcome to just go back and have a look at the last few seconds in your own time. But what happened was that I needed to contest, and the only thing that I could really realistically do that with was Golab. The problem was that I had 5 seconds left on the clock, and in order to reach that zone in the first place, he had to run, and so he had a Fury on him. And so we realised just at the end of the game that while I wanted to put him, just slap him back into the zone and clock back to you, it wasn't actually good enough, because I needed to pull the Fury back, and because I didn't do that, he would frenzy.
Yeah, so we
and frenzied war beasts don't contest, is that right?
I think they do, but we just realized that resolving the frenzy check would take a lot longer than 5
I had.
seconds.
Yeah, I didn't have enough time.
But if you have like 2 more minutes, I think we would go to tiebreakers. So my last turn would be just kill as much stuff as possible. I would probably need to remove those chosens that you could just run away, so you keep 20 points. Because single chosen is still 20 points. I would need to chew through Blightbringer boxes that I, at this point, without any Stone Shaper, I probably wouldn't be even able to do. Or I would need to kill Golab, but I don't think killing Golab would be enough. But that was interesting game, especially keeping in mind that we didn't lose that many models during this game. Like, the losses were fairly low for this matchup, for facing Anamag and going to 7. Usually people would have like a lot more victory points.
Yeah, I think like your playing of keep away and using Krueger's feet at the right time and using the buildings and terrain to your advantage to stop Anamag getting onto you was the reason why the kill count was pretty low. It meant that you couldn't kill much of mine, obviously, but you didn't care about that. That wasn't your plan, so it worked out really well. Yeah, the final minutes of the game, like, again, I want to bring you back to the fact that I wasted 3 minutes and 45 seconds on a gallows that never even happened. Never even nearly happened. And if I had 3 minutes and 45 at the end of that game, it would be really intense.
Yeah.
So it was really intense anyway, but it would have got even more so. So I think it's worth bearing in mind that these little things at the start that don't seem too bad, like, just try to keep in mind how stressed you are in the final minutes of a game, and just think how much you would love to have an extra 2 minutes, and then wonder, is it worth wasting 2 minutes on this potential little thing, or worrying about the facing of a Rotwing or the positioning of a mannequin? Like, it's just not worth it. Throw it down and get on with it.
Yeah, but at the same time, your opponent is going to sometimes tempt you with stuff that is not easy to get.
So just speaking of opponents tempting you, I made a note earlier in before the episode to speak about clock tactics and just little things like to watch out for. So, if your opponent is forcing you to a level of precision that you think is unreasonable, there are a few things you can do. First, if it's ridiculous, you can call a judge. So don't be afraid to call a judge. If someone's being an arse, just call a judge. If you think they're just being a little bit over the top, and then one of the things that I would do is, let's say that you're trying to move something 8 inches, and they are arguing that it's maybe 8.25. Just drag it back like half an inch, even an inch. Just say, right, okay, I'm going to move it back. And you know that maybe you lost half an inch of movement, but the time that you gain by not bringing out a stick, checking it, asking them if they're okay with it, putting it down, removing the proxy, taking the guy out, checking that now that you've removed the proxy, the model is still there, and you need to check again, is that still within 8 inches? Are you happy with that? All of that takes so much time. Just drag the model back half an inch, an inch. If it's not something where you are precisely setting up a trap or you are precisely contesting a zone, then I think it's well worth, a lot of the time, just drag your model back a little bit, be a tiny bit safer, a little bit less optimal, and save that time. You need to get better at, and I say I need to get better at looking at when it's worth spending the time to get that optimal distance and when it's not. And I fall into the trap of trying to be too optimal quite often. Have you got any other clock tips like that? Anything that you think is important?
Yeah, but before we move into that, I wanted to say that what you just said is really important. It's important because we all fall into the trap of overanalyzing things, of overthinking, of trying to be too optimal. And sometimes we should just ask ourselves, is this really important, if this is relevant for the game? Because if some measurement is relevant for us or for our opponent, it's probably good to take the time to measure things properly, to put all the proxy bases and to make everything clear. But if it's not, I think we should just let it go, because we can afford to do some small mistakes. We are all going to make them, and this is just what people do.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was explaining, because a newer player was asking me a couple of just little things, and one of the things he was saying, so how do you balance this against the clock and this against the amount of time that you spend to do it and so on? And I was saying, well, look, if your clock hits 0, you lose 100%. There's no, it's just 100% loss. Whereas if you make some slightly bad moves because you act too quickly, then your opponent might roll badly. They might not see the assassination or the scenario win that you've given them. So I've had a couple of games where I've left open, they could just walk things into zones and score and go 5 up on me, but they didn't because they were so focused on something else. If you give your opponent a chance to make mistakes, then they can. If your clock hits 0, then you simply lose 100% of the time. So the clock is the win condition that needs to be respected the most in some ways.
Yeah, so are you saying we should play not to lose, not especially to win? Because I really like this idea. Maybe it's just relevant for control casters, because sometimes you are not going to kill your opponent caster. Sometimes you are not going to score 5 CPs in a turn. Sometimes you are not going to kill so much stuff in your opponent's army that he won't be able to retaliate. I mean, sometimes we should just be patient. We should control all win conditions. We should make sure we are not losing on clock. We should make sure we are not losing on scenario and we are not going to lose the next turn. And we should make sure that our caster is safe. And if you're patient and if you control all those aspects, sometimes the opportunity to win the game will present itself. Your opponent might do a mistake or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's especially true if you have an advantage. Either you've built an advantage during the game, or you're a much stronger player, or whatever it is. Whenever you are ahead, stay ahead. Like, don't just give that up to the opponent. Don't give them the assassination. You know that if you put someone on the back foot, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to measure Golab to Krueger. Like, they're going to measure, Krueger to Anamag. Whatever the assassination is, that's what they're going to check, because they're thinking, oh God, I'm going to lose. How do I get out of this? First thing to do is kill the caster. Second thing they're going to do is they're going to have a look at your clock. Are you 10 minutes down on clock? Right, well, suddenly they're going to start playing for clock, moving models around in a way that costs you time, and they're going to try and do it that way. So just don't give them their win condition. I guess that's my final point.
Yeah, and this is a lesson I took from this game, or should I say, this game reminded me about it, because from the very beginning, I felt like I'm in an advantage because I chose the table that we are going to play on, and I won the role for the side. So I felt like scenario isn't a viable win condition for you. And oh my God, I was so wrong. I mean, I should mention that our scoreboard was just a mess, and we didn't know what's the score during the game. I mean, at the end of the game, because there were so many dots on it. And when we calculated the points to give the results to judges, I was shocked that we were so close. Actually, scenario was a viable win condition for you, and I was caught off guard. So I should pay more attention to it, and yeah. That's the lesson.
Definitely. So yeah, as we say, sort of, if you're ahead, stay ahead, and just make sure you don't give them their win condition. Cool. So I think that's probably enough for this episode. As always, if anyone's got any suggestions for future episodes, things they want to hear about, things they want to discuss, or maybe even a guest that we should potentially invite, you can get in touch with either of us. We are both on the... which Discord is it? Is it the Reddit Discord? Yeah, it's /r/War Machine on Discord. We're both there. I'm in the Legion group, and I think you are in several, Circle at least, and probably some others. Or you can get in touch via Facebook, or we are on Muse on Minis, and you can find us there. Any other final messages from you?
No.
Good. Well, that'll keep it short. So, thanks for listening. Sorry that we maybe rambled a little bit at the end, but I think it's good to get those thoughts out, because we hadn't discussed exactly what we were going to say there, but I think that's an important topic. Like, how not to lose is just as important as how to win. So.